Brace the rudders! Raise the sails! Raise the sails!
Captain, an unidentified ship is approaching. Over.
Roger. Wait, is that an enterprise sales solution?
Reach sales professionals, not professional sailors. With LinkedIn ads, you can target the right people by industry, job title, and more. We'll even give you a $100 credit on your next campaign. Get started today at linkedin.com/results. Terms and conditions apply.
Hey, it's Paris. You know I love sparkly things, right? Like stars. Duh. And thanks to Hilton and AutoCamp, I just slept under them. Picture me, serving looks by the fire outside my luxurious Airstream, making s'mores with the kids, while a national park is our backdrop. The great outdoors meets Hilton hospitality. That's hot. Explore all the new ways to stay at Hilton.com. Hilton for the stay.
This episode is brought to you by Nespresso Virtuo Coffee Machines. Ready to enjoy the bold flavors of barista-quality Nespresso iced coffee at home? Simply fill a glass with ice and press the brew button on your Virtuo Pop machine to enjoy rich double espressos roasted to stand up even when chilled. Refreshingly bold iced coffee. Refreshingly easy to make at home. Visit Nespresso.com to shop now.
As a sports fan, I have to confess. Sometimes the game gets kind of boring. That's when I unfold my Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 7 and use multi-window viewing on its large screen. Boring game? I'm checking out my fantasy baseball league at the same time. Score still 1-0? I'm replying to emails in the other window, scoring points with the boss. Semifinals finally getting exciting? I'm buying tickets to the finals and booking my flights. Can your phone do that?
The new Galaxy Z Fold 7. Get yours at Samsung.com.
This episode is brought to you by FX's Alien Earth, the official podcast. Each week, host Adam Rogers is joined by guests, including the show's creator, cast, and crew, in this exclusive companion podcast. They will explore story elements, deep dive into character motivations, and offer an episode-by-episode behind-the-scenes breakdown of each terrifying chapter in this new series. Search FX's Alien Earth wherever you listen to podcasts.
Hello, and welcome to the Assassin's Creed Lorecast. We are so excited to bring you this show.
Our podcast is all about unraveling all of your favorite mysteries from the Assassin's Creed games. Each episode, we'll be talking about a different topic in the Assassin's Creed universe. From Pieces of Eden, solar flares, and the Isu, to the Hidden Ones, the Order of Ancients, and of course, the Animus, we will seek to uncover it all.
So join us, and maybe even take a leap of faith.
Hello and welcome to the Assassin's Creed Lorecast. My name is Shelby. You also know me as She-Cup, and I'm here with my co-host for the day.
Hey, I'm Austin, also known as Teacup.
And you're always my co-host. I don't know why I said for the day, but that's okay. I also forgot that I was doing the intro. So here we are. We're back with another episode, starting off in a very chaotic way. So, we have a very topical episode today, so I'll just let Austin introduce it.
Yes. So if you are not aware of the world, which is fair, the Roman Catholic Church just elected a new Pope Leo the 14th. And so they just elected a new Pope, and this is a big deal. So we're talking about a Pope today.
Of which many are involved in Assassin's Creed.
Yes. Two big ones, Pope Clement V and Pope Alexander the Third, which is Rodrigo Borgia. And so those are two that we see actually in game deal with that.
I looked on the Assassin's Creed Wikipedia website, and they just have like a page for the papacy in general, and then like there's several that have links, I'm sure, that of varying importance in the lore. So yeah, it's just interesting that so many are involved in some way.
Yes, I mean, they just make big deals. I mean, and obviously, like, Altair takes place during the Third Crusade. Like, a pope is involved with that. Like, all of these things are involved. Like, because, and this is just a history thing, the Vatican and the papacy in general is a powerhouse authority in Europe for a very long time.
And still kind of is.
Yes. They don't have as much political, like raw political power, but it's still a big influence. Like the Pope is considered a, like, when you think about people who lead a country or who lead, like the Pope is still considered that. And Catholicism today is still the biggest Christian denomination. And
I mean, it is, I think it is similar to how it was back then. Obviously not quite the same, but like, number one, monarchies are not the same as they were back then. So like kings and queens don't have as much power as they did back then. But secondly, you know, I still feel like it's similar because like if the Pope made a surprise visit to America, like the president is going to stop and meet with him, like no matter what. And that's true for every country with a few exceptions. But generally, like if the Pope shows up at your front door, you're going to sit down and you're going to have a meeting with them.
Like, I'm not even Catholic. And if the Pope showed up to my door, like, yeah, I'm going to let them in. It's the
freaking Pope.
Like, one, I'm Protestant. What are you doing here? But like,
did your car break down? Do you need
okay?
help?
I'm happy to help you.
We could talk about Chicago.
So we're talking about Gregory VII, who is the Pope from 1073 to 1085. Now, I want to focus in here. I chose this era of history for a very specific reason, because according to the Catholic Church and what they say, which I think we should take as if they say this is what they consider. The first Pope is Simon Peter, who is the first Bishop of Rome. That's what they consider the first Pope.
And when you say Simon Peter, you mean the disciple of Jesus, for those of you who are not familiar.
Yes. And so he is considered the first Pope. And so the bishops of Rome are considered to be, in theology, the fancy word is apostolic succession. Basically means that like one of the 12 apostles, which are the disciples of Jesus, they anointed you as a bishop and so on and so forth. And so the Bishop of Rome is considered to be the direct line of like Peter appointed his successor, and then his successor appointed there. And so the bishops of Rome can trace a direct line all the way back to Peter. And that's a big deal. And so historically, because Peter became this Bishop of Rome as he stood in there, the Bishop of Rome has always had some sort of authority. And so as time went back, and as the seat of the empire shifted from Rome to Constantinople, the Eastern churches started to be like, why are we listening to the Bishop of Rome? We don't need to, like, he's just a bishop like the rest of us. And so this tension keeps building up until finally in 1054 is what is known as the Great Schism, is basically when you have what we can consider the start of like the Roman Catholic Church and the Eastern Orthodoxy being different. Mm-hmm. Now, they both trace their starts well before that. So I want to say that I'm not saying that the Eastern Orthodox or the Catholic Church, like, that's their birthday. They started in 1054. 1054 is just the marking point of
their separation.
This is their separation. And it really is a point of the Pope, the office of the papacy, becoming this powerhouse. And we're going to see this with Gregory VII. His reforms are called the Gregorian reforms, and they start before him with Leo IX and continue on after him. And it takes a while, but this reforms basically into what we know as the papacy today. So that's why I kind of picked this era and this Pope in particular. That was a long back thing.
There's a lot of history. There's a lot of backstory. You know, if you're still confused, it's okay. It is confusing. You know, it's very similar to like how when Christianity first started, it was a sect of Judaism. And it grew until they had theological differences that they could no longer reconcile, and they broke apart, and that's fine. They became two separate religions. It's kind of similar, but like we're still talking about Christians overarching, but there are theological differences, not just the issue of the papacy that go into their split as well.
Yes. There are a lot of big ones. I used to, when we were in undergrad, our church history professor had a nice little chart that detailed them all, but I can't remember anymore.
I don't even remember that.
Yeah. But I remember some of the big ones are like when Easter is, which is still a difference today.
Yep. Mm-hmm. This year it was the same.
It was. And then the papacy is a big one. So like in Eastern Orthodox, they do not have a central leader. They have patriarchs, and there's different patriarchs of different regions. And then there's another thing about whether or not you can use unleavened bread in communion, which I think now the Catholic Church has said, no, you need to use unleavened bread.
Oh, I have no idea. I've never even been to a Catholic service before, so I wouldn't know.
Well, they do use unleavened bread. And then there's a bunch of other ones. Iconography, which if you're familiar, are special kind of pictures and paintings that hold theological significance. The use of relics is another big difference.
I think the other biggest one that I can remember is the theology of the Holy Spirit.
Yes, that is a very, very big one. And that one goes back way, way, way before the split in 1054.
Yeah, but they are different. So
yes. So Gregory VII was born Hildebrand of Sonova and was head of the Catholic Church and ruler of the Papal States from the 22nd of April, 1073 to his death in 1085. And so that is roughly 12 years as Pope, which is, I'm going to say he is one of the longest reigning popes of this era.
Really?
Yes.
That surprises me.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why. I don't think this is accurate. But when I think of it, I think of, okay, popes in our modern era, other than Pope John Paul II, have short reigns. And then popes from earlier in history, they have long reigns.
It depends on the period. It really is like, as I was looking through the whole list and everything, there are some periods where a pope is elected and they reign for a long time, and then there are some periods where this pope dies. I think probably 18th century, so 1700s, you have this kind of going on depending on if there's a plague. Health is a little less stabilized, and life expectancy, there are more things that you're likely to die on, whereas a pope now, as long as they, don't catch a disease or stay roughly in health, they're going to live.
They're going to live a long time.
And so if you're elected pope when you're 65, it's possible you're pope for 20 years.
Well, Pope Leo is in his 60s, so it is entirely possible.
Mm-hmm. And so it's really, and it is important to note that popes are typically, it is from appointment to death. The way you stop being pope is you die. I don't think Benedict was the first pope to resign, but he was the first one in a long time.
You're right. Pope Benedict was not the first pope to resign, but he was the first to do so in almost 600 years. So it's been a long time. Gregory XII in 1415 was the last one who resigned, which is crazy.
It is crazy. And the Papal States, in what it refers to, is that the Vatican is its own country. It is not... It is like you have the city of Rome. When you go into the Vatican, you are technically entering a sovereign nation.
Well, it's similar to entering a reservation in the United States.
Yes.
They're their own sovereign nations within the borders of the United States.
Yes.
The Vatican is the same. It's a sovereign nation within the border of Italy.
Right. But in a little bit of a change, the United States federal government has jurisdiction over the reservations. I do not believe that the government of Italy has jurisdiction over the Vatican.
I don't know.
I don't know. I'm not a Catholic person. I don't know that government. So if you do know, leave us a comment and let me know. But anyway, so he initiated, as I talked about, the Gregorian reforms and is best known for his part in the investiture controversy, which was a dispute with Henry IV, who would later become emperor of the Holy Roman Empire. And so this is important because we'll talk about exactly what that is, but it is a big deal. It establishes basically the primacy of papal authority and basically sets into law how the College of Cardinals is allowed to elect a pope.
And are these reforms that they instituted then still how it happens today?
For the most part, Pope Francis or John Paul II got away with limited the ability of what's called acclamation, which is basically like the ability for the cardinals to just declare, hey, we've elected this person pope, who could be anyone as long as they're Catholic. There are other ways that there are like 5 ways that they can elect a pope. They've fallen out of style for a lot of ways, but now the main way that is still this is the secret vote, which is what they do now.
Gotcha. If you are interested in the conclave process, you should definitely watch the Conclave movie, which came out last year, and it was great.
Yes. It was very. So he is the first pope to introduce an official policy of obligatory celibacy for the clergy. So basically saying that the clergy cannot be married, and celibacy goes even further to say clergy are forbidden from engaging in sexual practice.
And I mean, I think this is, when we think about Catholicism and Catholic priests, like this is something I think that's almost ubiquitous to Catholicism, that we think of in our brains like, oh yeah, all their priests are celibate. Even to the fact that if you're part of other denominations and you're a pastor or a priest, people will ask you like, oh, I didn't think pastors could be married. Not necessarily like, Baptists or more non-denominational denominations, but like I've heard from Episcopal friends that happens to them all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And it does in United Methodist circles too. And so, and I'm sure Presbyterian too. So it's something we think of as ubiquitous, but it's really not. It's halfway through their history that this gets instituted. And I think it is important to name that one of the real reasons is behind this is not a theological reason. It's because priests were having children and bishops and archbishops were having children and leaving their wealth to their children and not the church.
Mm-hmm.
I think that we got to name that.
Yes. And it's important to know, I remember when I learned this because we were watching The Last Kingdom, and in that, Father Beaka, he gets married.
Yeah.
And I was sitting there, I was like, what?
When did they institute?
And so I looked it up and I was like, oh, and it's not long because that takes place in like the 8th century, 9th century.
Yeah, I think it's the 800s.
Yeah. So 9th, 10th to the 10th century. And then, so this is coming, like this policy is coming. But it is interesting. And then he also attacked and really went around the practice of simony. Simony is the practice of basically buying church power and buying so it comes from the book of Acts when a man named Simon something comes to the disciples and basically is like, I will give you this amount of money to give me the power to do miracles.
Mm-hmm.
And so now the simony practice is like, basically it's almost like a form of bribery of like saying like, oh, I will donate this much money to whatever, or I'll do this, you make me a bishop, or other things like that. This is, if you have seen Conclave, this is the sin that one of the bishop candidates gets caught in, and the big deal in the cafeteria scene. This is the sin that they put forward, and basically it's about like selling church offices for church power for a price, which I find is so funny that they are so against this.
But they're okay with indulgences later on. I was just gonna ask, really, what's the difference between simony and indulgences? When to me, it's almost like it's reversed. Like we as the church are going to sell church power to the lay people instead of people who have the money to buy fancy relics and stuff.
Yes. And I think the biggest difference here is that indulgences, the practice of indulgence was not always a monetary thing. Like indulgences were originally a point of like penance you could do on behalf of a departed soul.
Mhm.
So like if your grandmother died and she had not, announced all her sin or done her penance, you could go and like do prayers or do acts of service for the church or do an offering. What happens in the Reformation is they basically they say this will be a great way to build the Basilica of St. Peter.
Yeah, they do it to get money.
Yes, and that is what I don't think Martin Luther, I think he later developed a theology against indulgences, but indulgences is the selling of salvation versus the selling of church power, which I know sounds it is different,
It's
but
similar,
it's
but different. Yeah.
Yeah, but I do think it's a good thing to call out of like, okay, we're floating the line here. And I wonder if, I haven't read a lot of this era of church history, but I wonder if people compared indulgences to simony in their writings and stuff.
It's entirely possible. I don't know enough about it to have, a say, but.
So Gregory VII really becomes this exemplar or like status quo or poster child for papal supremacy, which this is a big deal, which his memory is often invoked when talking about it. And historians and writers reflect on this, and people either talk about him positively and say, look at the Pope and look at Gregory VII, and this is how the Pope should behave and the power they should have, or they talk about it negatively and say, like, this went too far.
So he's like a super Pope is what I'm hearing.
Yes. He does not establish the doctrine of papal infallibility, which comes much, much, much later. In the 1800s is when that comes in. And papal infallibility is basically the idea that when the Pope speaks what's called ex cathedra, which is from the throne, there is no fault in their words. You cannot dispute it unless another Pope speaks ex cathedra to undo it. And I will tell you, there has only been one instance in history where a Pope has spoken ex cathedra.
It's just, it's a huge power and a huge responsibility for a person that is just a human being and is just as flawed and sinful as the rest of us.
Yeah, and I think that's why there have not been a lot, because I think that we tend to take a very cynical look at the people who have been placed in power in history. But I think that at the end of the day, at some level, most people who go into the clergy have a sense of service and want to do that. I'm going to take that positive spin. You can judge me all you want, Shelby.
I'm not judging you. I think I disagree.
Yeah. And I think but I also think that there could be a lot of political backlash if the Pope were to speak ex cathedra. And
yeah, I think it's a blessing in the world that the doctrine of papal infallibility came about as late as the 1800s. I think if it had come about much earlier, it would have been a lot more destructive for our universe.
I mean, look at the Borgia. Like, think about if they had papal infallibility. Like, think about the Crusade popes, which are coming in very soon. And think if they had papal infallibility.
Yeah.
Like, this is a big deal. But papal supremacy is basically, we'll talk about this with the investiture crisis. So his life work was based on the conviction that the church was founded by God and entrusted with the task of embracing all humankind, in a single society in which divine will is the only law. He argued heavily that the law of the church superseded the secular laws of countries.
Yikes.
So you can see where this is going to cause
some
tension with the Holy Roman Emperor.
Mm-hmm.
And it's important to note, so Christianity starts as this fringe movement, but in the 4th century, the 300s, Constantine is emperor of the Roman Empire, and he makes Christianity He doesn't make it the official religion of the empire. That's a misnomer. Like, he does not do that. He makes it legal to be Christian because he basically sees all his predecessors wasting money and wasting resources trying to persecute these Christians, and they're not going anywhere. And so he says, let's just let them be and make them pay taxes, and we'll
get their money.
Yeah, make the citizens pay taxes, and just we can be a multicultural thing. Later, his sons screw it all up and make Christianity the official religion of the empire, and it causes a bunch of problems, and Constantinople falls, the Roman Empire falls, all kinds of stuff like that. So there's always been this link between Rome and Catholicism and the empire, what will become the Holy Roman Empire, this connection between the papacy and the rulers around Germany and Italy and all of this and all of these things. Well, the Germanic rulers have not always been fond of what will become Italy holding power over them. And this is really when we get to the Reformation, this is a big deal. The German princes are this is our chance. We can finally break away from this papal influence.
And when you say the Germanics, I assume you just mean the countries that would become Germany, Austria, etc.
Yes.
That so Western kind of Europe.
West Central Europe, that kind of stuff right there. And so basically this controversy that comes out is about the election of bishops and abbots in places outside of the Vatican. And basically, the ruling powers of what would become the Holy Roman Empire wanted to appoint bishops and abbots within their own country. They wanted the authority to decide what bishops and who could become a bishop within their own country. And Gregory VII is basically absolutely not.
Yeah, well, I mean, Gregory wins because that's how it's still done today.
Yes, he does, but it's interesting. He doesn't actually win. They don't solve the controversy until after his death.
Interesting. Okay.
So there's a lot of fighting. There's a lot of back and forth. Basically, as I said, it's not settled by Gregory, but eventually the papacy wins out and they have the authority to appoint bishops. But the bishops have to swear fealty to the secular monarch.
I'm honestly surprised that that's how they resolve it, that they would allow. I mean, it's a different world then because today I think there's more of this idea that we don't swear fealty to anything but God and the people in the church that are appointed by God because we don't have monarchies the way we did then.
I do want to say that, and I'm kind of looking at this with, 21st century glasses and looking back on this and seeing the whole picture rather than just the moment in time. The early church, who faced persecution under Rome for not declaring that the emperor is basically a god, would have taken huge issue with this.
Yeah, I definitely hear what you're saying. And also, I think, if this had not gone through, and they did allow different countries and the leaders of those countries to appoint the bishops and even clergy, it just kind of is well, we're getting into the territory of y'all just being similar to the Orthodox Church again. Because that's the whole deal with patriarchs, is that the patriarchs, they basically rule over a certain area, and they're all mini popes essentially, and they all work together. And so it's just kind of it's a little different, but it's just we're getting into a territory where it would be very similar.
Yes. It's interesting to me because Henry VIII of England, so no relation to the Henry IV that we're talking about before, but Henry VIII of England basically establishes this.
I know.
The church, the king, the monarch of England is head of the Church of England, and they appoint the bishop. They appoint at least the Archbishop of Canterbury.
Yeah, I looked this up recently outside of this episode, and they do, Charles does, but he also, it's like a rubber stamp now. It's not really a okay, you get to pick whoever you want. It's more of a, hey, we're going to give you a couple people, or we're going to give you our recommendation, and we just need you to co-sign that.
Mm-hmm. But when Henry VIII establishes it, he has the power. But like Henry VIII isn't going to share power with anyone.
Well, no.
And so here are just some couple. This controversy basically also solidifies the College of Cardinals process for electing the Pope, and basically the Henry IV wanted to be able to preside over the election of the Pope and the election of bishops.
That's insane.
Well, I thought it was insane too when I read it, but then I thought about it. Constantine presides over the Council of Nicaea.
True.
So I think this is where Henry IV is coming from. Is there is precedent of secular rulers presiding over these big things. Like Constantine didn't make any decisions at the Council of Nicaea, but he was the person who like opened it. And
yes, but two things. Number one, the Roman Empire of the 300s and the Roman Empire of the 1000s are completely different empires.
Yes.
And number two, I get the feeling from Henry IV that he would try to have a say. He would try to get involved, whereas Constantine was more removed intentionally.
Yes, Constantine just wanted unity in the church.
Constantine just wanted them to figure it out.
Yes. He did not care which theology won out. He just wanted to make sure that whichever theology created unity because he wanted the Christians' money.
Yes, as we've discussed.
So a little bit more beliefs that he has. His reforms are mainly in his writings are driven by the belief that the church needed to be restored to its rightful place of power and influence, free from corruption and worldly interference. I just think that's very interesting. Gregory VII firmly believed that the Pope was the supreme authority on earth, directly representing God and having the final say in matters of faith and governance. So let's just digest those little two as we go to our mid-break, and we can get into our discussion.
Okay, he's not going to give me a chance to respond.
No, because I think we'll respond in the next.
All right. All right, well, let's head to the mid-break.
My cat Freddie loves to be brushed and cuddled. But stirring up his cat allergens meant sneezing and itchy eyes. Then I found Purina One Live Clear. It's cat food that reduced the major allergen and my suffering in as little as 21 days. Now, we feel closer than ever. If you have issues with cat allergens, you really need to try Purina One Live Clear.
Try new Purina One Live Clear today. Purina One, a difference from day one.
Lowe's knows to bring your vision to life, it's important to find the right color. That's why MyLowe's Rewards members get a free Valspar paint or exterior stain sample to test your look to confidently refresh your space. Offer valid in-store only 8/7 to 8/20. Limit 1 per customer while supplies last. Discount taken at time of purchase. See associate for details. Rewards program subject to terms and conditions. Details at lowes.com/terms. Subject to change.
This message is sponsored by Greenlight. With school out, summer is the perfect time to teach our kids real-world money skills they'll use forever. Greenlight is a debit card and the #1 family finance and safety app used by millions of families, helping kids learn how to save, invest, and spend wisely. Parents can send their kids money and track their spending and saving, while kids build money confidence and skills in fun ways. Start your risk-free Greenlight trial today at greenlight.com/Spotify. That's greenlight.com/Spotify.
Ma cos'è? Shoot! Shoot a flying demon!
Quite a carriage you got there. Where did you buy it, if you don't mind me asking?
Ask all you want, Freddie. You'll never get an answer.
Damn it all. Was it my eyebrows?
Yes, and your face, voice, and body.
What have you done? We used them. They were not ready for firing. You could have gotten us all killed. Let me see. His breath is more fatal than our cannons. Only when you two fools are shooting them. There, try it.
Welcome to the middle of the show. This is where we take time to talk about all the things that have to do with the lore cast and not the lore of Assassin's Creed. So the first thing that we do every week is thank all of our amazing patrons. Thank you all so much, so much for financially supporting the podcast. We truly couldn't keep doing it without you. Now, if you want to join the Patreon, you can do so. Get our awesome merch. All you have to do is go to patreon.com/ACLorecast. You can join for as little as $5 a month. Now, if you can't support us financially, we also understand that. The next best way to support us is to leave us a comment, a rating, a review, wherever you can, and we'll read it out on a future episode of the show. And so I have one to read today, which comes from Brandon M. And Brandon commented on the What Should Ubisoft Do with the Modern Day storyline from last year. And Brandon said, I love this podcast. It's very informative and the details about history are awesome. Both the Cups are very knowledgeable and do a great job with the info. It would be awesome if, in the future, we could play as Desmond's son in the modern day and get to see him speak with the reader, eventually discovering that it's his father helping him win this conflict between the Assassins and Templars. We need to play as a Miles family member again. Thank you so much for leaving us that awesome review. Now, the next to last thing I want to remind you of is that you can join our Discord server. It's the best place on the internet, and it's a great place to come and talk about Assassin's Creed and all the new things that they're doing with Shadows, which leads me into my next point, and that is my Assassin's Creed Shadows playthrough update. And I'm doing good. I'm like 30 to 35 hours into the game. I said this to Austin the other day. I was like, I have no idea where I'm at in the story, which means I'm probably solidly in the middle of Act 2. I have met a lot of people who keep flirting with me, both as Yasuke and Naue, which Yasuke only has eyes for one lady, and that's Lady Oichi in my mind. Unfortunately, she has turned me down so far. But let me think. What else have I done? I've taken down about half of this Shimbaku. Maybe one less than half, but around half. And I've explored most of the areas. I have, I think, 3 areas that I haven't gone to at all. So I'm making my way through. I'm enjoying it a lot so far. I've made it through every season and then some.
Well, that's good. That sounds awesome.
I don't know if you had thoughts about anything I've done being incorrect so far.
No, I don't think so. I mean, I will say that I played on canon mode for my first playthrough. So, like, I didn't really...
You didn't get the flirting, romance stuff.
I got some flirting, and I think there is some opportunities for romance even in canon mode. But I was more focused on completing the story. I didn't do a lot of that side stuff because I wanted to know what happens for you all if people wanted to talk to me about it. And so I'm still waiting on my kind of second playthrough, but I want to give Shelby time to complete it before I go back up because it's really hard to have multiple saves on this game.
Also, you're super into like 3 games right now.
That is true.
So,
I mean, if you go back and track the history of the podcast, this is probably like the 10th time that you've said this in the mid-break of saying Austin's like into like 7 games right now.
That's fair. I think that's accurate.
I mean, there are certain games that I always have just playthroughs going in, and like Skyrim is one of them, and there's others.
Do you have a Skyrim playthrough right now? I thought you were in Oblivion.
I am in Oblivion. I've got an Oblivion playthrough. I've got a Starfield playthrough, and I've got a Baldur's Gate playthrough.
You have the Expedition 33 playthrough too.
And so I got 4 games.
Okay. All right. Well, that's excessive, but let's get back into it.
This episode is sponsored by Friskies, who would like to tell your cats hi. Now, if that didn't get your cat's attention, there is one thing that always does the trick. Just pour some Friskies crunchy food in the bowl and you'll hear those paws come running. Works every time. With so many Friskies choices, you can always bring your cats running from their secret napping spots. There's always more to explore. See for yourself at Friskies.com or visit your local store.
Hey, it's Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. Now, I was looking for fun ways to tell you that Mint's offer of unlimited premium wireless for $15 a month is back. So I thought it would be fun if we made $15 bills. But it turns out That's very illegal. So there goes my big idea for the commercial. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. New customer offer for first 3 months only. Speed slow after 35 gigabytes if network's busy. Taxes and fees extra. See mintmobile.com.
This episode is brought to you by Buick. Buick certified service technicians are factory trained to fit your vehicle with the tires specifically developed for it. And with our tire price match guarantee, you get the best fit for the best deal. Buick, exceptional by design. Available on select eligible tire brands at participating dealers only. Offer ends 12/31/2025. Terms apply. See dealer for complete details. Visit buick.com/service to learn more.
Malaka. But that madman, the self-proclaimed Bishop of the Ruins, is our biggest critic. He calls our playing the devil's bagpipes.
I will sleep with anyone as long as they agree to be executed in the morning.
Like Xanthivis.
He was well satisfied with his bargain. Who is this toothsome fellow?
My queen, this is,
Well?
It is a generous offer, but I've already pledged my life to this woman.
Aya, you have chosen well.
All right. So, Assassin's Creed involvement. There is none. He doesn't even have an entry in the wiki.
Okay, I just need everybody to know, earlier I suggested this topic, just about the papacy in general, because it was so topical. And we were in the car talking, and you were like, oh, I was going to do Leo, but there just wasn't enough info on him in Assassin's Creed. And so I'm sitting here like, you told me there wasn't enough info on this other guy, and now we're sitting here talking about somebody who has no involvement.
Leo has no information either, but Leo has less historical information about him. That's what I meant.
All right, I accept that.
But I do want to talk about that there is a possibility, not that we see Gregory VII in a game, but I think that we might see the effects of Gregory VII and maybe mentions of him in codexes across Assassin's Creed X, because it is set in the Holy Roman Empire in the 16th century, the 1500s, which this is now like the second game that they've released now within this decade set in the 16th century.
I mean, I wonder if they're going to tie together.
I wouldn't be surprised. But being in the witch trials of the Holy Roman Empire and around the Reformation, I would not be surprised if we get some allusions to the things Gregory VII has done in Assassin's Creed, just because he has a lot of effect on some of the issues that come about in the Reformation. And he set some groundwork of like, this papal supremacy issue is not going to go away anytime soon, and they're going to be fighting with it. And I mean, even there was even a point of part of the in the 1850s of saying papal infallibility is that the American Catholic churches were like, why do we need to listen to the Pope?
But not only that, I mean, when JFK was elected and he was the first Catholic president, a lot of his detractors said, how can we elect a Catholic to be the president when he'll always have more of an allegiance to the Pope than America?
Mm-hmm.
So this is not an issue that goes away. This is still an issue.
Mm-hmm.
That's why there have been a lot of Catholics online that are, either very left-wing or very right-wing that have said, oh, I hope the Pope is liberal, or I hope the Pope is conservative, so that they don't have to have that cognitive dissonance when they disagree with the Pope.
Mm-hmm. Yes, because it's a lot of pressure and a lot of authority to put on a person.
It is, but, they also do what they do best, and that is inflicting Catholic guilt on their members.
That is true.
So, no offense.
Yeah, but, yeah, so I do think that, like, while there is no official Assassin's Creed involvement, I would not be surprised if we get some, maybe, seeing just the effects of a post-Reformation Holy Roman Empire Germany kind of era, which is important to note. Like, Germany and Italy, they become countries. Like, they're not that old as countries. They're not much older than we are.
I mean, as
like what they are now.
Kingdoms.
As what they are now, yes.
Yes, because I mean, for a long time, it was the Austro-Hungarian Empire. that area
Yes.
for a long time. And I mean, Italy's history is so tied up in the Roman Empire and Catholicism that it's really hard to separate.
Yes. And they do become their own country. And, Otto von Bismarck is the one who kind of brings modern day Germany into like what it is today. Establishing that kind of there. But that's really, so it'll be really interesting to me to play in a game in this era. I actually find like the 1500s to the 1800s Europe actually really fascinating because a lot of change happens in those 300 years. And a lot of cool people come about.
True. I do think you have a really great point with Assassin's Creed Hex and this Pope potentially playing a role. I hadn't thought about that while we were discussing this, but just to get us into the discussion of Assassin versus Templar for him a little bit, I'm curious to know your thoughts because I'm going back and forth. Like I don't feel like he would be affiliated with the Assassins, but I don't necessarily feel that strong of a pull to the Templars either. I feel like this is more of a person that is going to be just with his discussion of no, the Pope is in charge. The Pope is the one that's the head. The Pope is we've got the most power and we represent God and we need to eradicate corruption in the church. To me, that I see how some of that can be Templar related, but to me that feels very much more like a person who's actually just devoted to the church and wants to get rid of all this assassin Templar crap.
It is possible. I don't think it's difficult to say because Alfred the Great, Alfred of Wessex, being the founder of the Templar Order, historically, that man was so devoted to Christianity and Catholicism that he was going to do whatever the Pope said.
Yeah.
Like the historical person that we're talking about. He has probably been one of the most Christian like rulers in history, in my opinion. And so I find it hard for him I go back and forth of him wanting to control this, but I also find him like in a point of like, no, we don't need to influence the papacy. Like the papacy needs to be
Alfred, you mean?
Alfred being like that and trying to basically corral the Templars away from influencing Rome and the Vatican and the papacy.
I mean,
but I could also see the other way around.
I agree. And I could see a lot of similarities between Gregory and Alfred. But for me, I feel like a lot of the point of Valhalla is that Alfred has kind of come to regret almost his founding of the Templars. Like it's become something that he didn't intend for it to become. And then after him, it continues on and on and on, into the other games that we're so familiar with. And it's, it becomes out of his control.
Yes, I definitely agree with that, especially when it comes in regards to the Order of Ancients. I mean, he orchestrates the Order of Ancients' destruction.
Yeah.
Because of their obsession with the Isu. But I wonder if, like, there are just some questions that I have that I don't know, like, when does the papal staff, like, when does it become a thing? So, like, when does this staff of Eden become influential on all these popes?
Yeah, I would love to know the answer to that question, but I don't think they'll ever tell us.
No. And so just there's a lot of history there and there's a lot of just that we don't know. But I think if he aligns anywhere, it is the Templars solely because of the idea that this one person in this one singular authority needs to govern and direct the world to steer it from corruption. That is so Templar.
Yeah, for sure it is. I just don't know if his idea of what corruption is the same idea as what the Templars think corruption is.
Mm-hmm. I definitely agree with that. And I think that the bishops and popes before this, I think that the challenges that the Eastern Orthodox Church brings to the Western Church, in especially their challenges of the Bishop of Rome and the establishments of the patriarchs, I think that probably sets what I would consider like what Gregory assumes as like this church has lost its power and influence. Which is still like, there are Catholics today that still like want this rift of the Great Schism to be healed. So, I mean, likely.
I don't know. I just don't think it's ever going to happen.
I
would say the same thing about Protestantism, because Protestants and the Orthodox Church, they've changed so much since there's both of their respective splits from Catholicism that I just don't think it's going to happen.
I don't either, but there are a lot of reasons. There are a lot of other reasons that I don't think it's going to happen. But other than that, I think if anything, he's a Templar, but I'm like you, I'm not sold that he is.
I could see it being written. If they write it well, I could believe it. But if they write it badly, even if they wrote it badly, I could still be convinced by it either way. But yeah, so we're solidly leading into the camp of we don't know.
Yes.
All right, well, let's wrap it up. Austin, thank you so much for doing the research as always. And thank you for listening to the Assassin's Creed Lorecast. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening to the Assassin's Creed Lorecast. You can find us on Twitter at AC Lorecast.
If you have any lore questions or topics to unpack, join our Cups Podcasting and More Discord server. It's the best place on the internet. You can also support us financially through our Patreon. Find us on patreon.com/Assassin's Creed Lorecast. The Assassin's Creed Lorecast is part of the Robots Radio Network. For more information about the Robots Radio Network, join the Discord server via the link in our episode's description.
If you enjoyed the show or learned something new today, please subscribe, leave us a review, and join the Patreon. And if you enjoyed our intro and outro music, make sure you give a big thank you to Pipeman Studios. Thank you, Pipeman. Thanks again for listening to the Assassin's Creed Lorecast. And always remember, Assassins, stay in the shadows to serve the light.
Want to live better? We've got a lot of work to do. Join Chris Hemsworth in National Geographic's new Disney Plus original series, Limitless. Live better now.
I'm diving headfirst into cutting-edge science to uncover 3 powerful secrets to living better right now. The growth that occurs through any challenging experience is really what we seek.
Chris Hemsworth stars in Limitless. Live better now. Now streaming on Disney Plus and Hulu.
It's showtime.
Ever wanted to be a content creator but had no clue where to begin? Come join me as I sit down with content creators that have already faced the challenges you're up against, as they discuss the tips and tricks that help them be successful. Here on The Content Creator's Guide, available wherever podcasts can be found.